Yes, sir. Welcome back. You are tuned into the Commissioner's Conversation. This week, I have the honor, the pleasure of talking to my guy, Daminon Lewis from Prep Sports Nation. How's it going, man?
What's up, G? How are you, bro?
Man,
Appreciate you having me, man.
everything is great, man. Like, I like talking to you because I feel like when I talk to you, I have my ear to the street. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like I
sir.
get to know what's going on before everybody else knows what's going on because
Yes.
you are out in the fields. You out. I follow you. I'm watching all the sports, all the videos, all the interviews, and I feel like I'm in the loop without being able to actually be in the loop. So,
Appreciate it,
I
man.
mean,
Appreciate it.
with that, like, can you expand upon what you do and your vision with Prep Sports Nation?
Yes, sir. Definitely, man. Again, appreciate you taking the time to have me on, bro. It's really an honor. And man, basically, Prep Sports Nation, it's the, the vision is the ultimate, overall ESPN of high school sports locally, and some national stuff. We do some national stuff too, but it gives the kids another platform to get some type of exposure. So versus just like what they call the mixtape videos, which you see a lot of, which when if you go to games, you see a lot of people on cameras, and then they turn around and make videos, and it's got the music to it, and just highlights of the kids. I kind of do highlights of, I do more ESPN style highlights, of the game. So it's with the voiceover,
Right.
post game interviews with coaches, things of that nature. And touch on every sport, man, or try to at least. I was just talking to someone the other day and told him it looks like I'm gonna have to go ahead and start covering these cheer competitions and things of that nature, because for Georgia, that's gotten real big as far as
It is.
high school goes.
Definitely.
Competition cheer has always been a big thing, but now in high school, it's you can win the state championship in competition cheer. So I try to cover as many, sports and give as many sports, again, we're just another outlet to help kids get some type of exposure. It's not always about covering the top kid or the top teams, because the reality of it is they will get their natural exposure.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we don't cover them. We'll cover them, but, we want to try to show everyone love, whether you're a ranked a ranked program or student athlete, or you're unknown, down somewhere where a lot of media doesn't really cover you, but you're just as good. And so that's kind of, where we're at with it. Back over the summer when COVID hit, we started the podcast portion or really before the summer, because obviously, there was nothing going on, but we still wanted to, help kids get some kind of exposure. So we started doing the podcast and talking to student athletes, talking to coaches, just so they could still feel like someone cared and wanted to know what was going on in their world.
And see, that brings me to where we are right now because we're running up on almost a year to
Mm-hmm.
where it was this time last year, pretty close to where everyone had to shut down. And like
Right.
you said, with that, I'm sure it threw colleges for a loop. It threw athletes who were anticipating on going to colleges for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to get a feel for a lot of those athletes who were in their senior season? Maybe they were playing baseball, maybe they were running track or lacrosse, and all of a sudden, before the season could really take off, it shut down.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely talked to, and it was the 20 for Georgia in particularly. It was the 2021 kids that were participating in spring sports, and spring sports were their main sports that got hit the hardest by this. So you're talking about, baseball, lacrosse, soccer, track, and tennis student athletes that really got hit hard by it. And so, several kids, for the most part, had pretty much already uh, locked in and committed to where they were going to go. So they didn't get affected as bad, but there were some kids that kind of still needed the senior season to kind of solidify, maybe pick up a few more offers. They might have were out their junior year due to injury, so they kind of needed the senior year to, kind of show some redemption, show that they were back and they could garner those offers. So, you had cases where some kids ended up having to, if they had offers, and versus trying to see if they can get more, they just kind of had to look, see what they had, take the best available, and then maybe this year they can look into moving on to something else. But you had some like, track kids didn't really get much of their season in. And, track is totally different.
Right.
It's all about your time. And no kid typically is running their fastest time within those first 2-3 meets. It's usually by, meet 10, 12, whatever the case may be, is, your time is really down. So, it was an unfortunate situation for so many student athletes, but there wasn't really much that could be done about it. Obviously, safety came first. And, unfortunately, man, some other states like California, they still haven't resumed sports. Michigan just started resuming. They just gave Michigan the green light this last week that they can start, I think it's next week. So Georgia's very fortunate. We're wrapping up winter sports. Right. Spring sports are, just getting started. So it looks like we're going to be able to have all our sports go all the way through without any major cases. I think in the fall, there was like one softball team, one football team that had to vacate their playoff spot when playoffs, first round, when playoffs first started. But other than that, we haven't had like a major effect. Yes, there's been games canceled, postponed, rescheduled, things of that nature, but nothing to the magnitude of where they had to kind of shut the season back down or anything like that.
Well, in that situation, in terms of like where you have states that haven't had any sports going on at all, have you found that like colleges rely more upon services like yours with Prep Sports Nation, with other outlets, other media outlets that are right there, that have the actual video, that have the actual footage of the player? Do they rely more on you now that they can't see the player and go out for themselves?
Oh yeah, definitely. You've definitely had coaches, because the thing about it is, but a lot of people don't realize too, is the dead period. NCAA dead period was extended, and it still just got lifted, I want to say recently. So their student athletes couldn't do college, campus visits, coaches couldn't, there was no contact for all this period. So for almost a year, recruits couldn't do what they normally do when it came down to campus visits and things of that nature. So yeah, college coaches had to kind of look at, watch some highlights here and there of kids and things like that, just to kind of get a feel of a student athletes, where they were at. But yeah, the whole recruiting process was definitely affected by the shutdown, because again, with no campus visits and things of that nature, and no contact being allowed, they couldn't do the traditional thing. Now, so they definitely had to rely on, those, not just mine, but just highlight videos in general.
So with you talked about how we had in Georgia here, we were allowed to have fall sports, we were allowed to have the winter sports. Coming back, what adjustments did you find? Like, let's take football, for instance, that those coaches had to make because they had to take extra precaution. Like, what adjustments did they have to make when they welcomed kids back, when a lot of kids weren't even in school?
Well, the biggest thing obviously was the sanitation portion of everything, sanitizing everything. Initially when GHSA gave the green light for sports to go ahead, there was a lot of limitations. In the beginning for fall, for football, for example, they couldn't do just, no sports really could do an actual practice. It was more of conditioning. They couldn't do anything related to their sport, no throwing of balls, things of that nature. So initially, that was one of the first adjustments. So really, the biggest adjustment was just the whole conditioning factor in general. You got to think about it. For football and even volleyball, softball, granted, a lot of for volleyball and softball, some kids were able to over the summer participate in like their club teams and things of that nature. But as far as doing summer activities with your team, none of that you normally do was able to happen. So conditioning was really the biggest factor, biggest adjustment for a lot of those fall kids, and even the winter sports, because they didn't get to start their conditioning process the normal time that they do. So I think the biggest adjustment was getting the conditioning in to get up to speed, to kind of get to where you would want to be at a certain point in the season because you lost all of that. Football, they didn't have spring football, they didn't have 7-on-7s. Basketball didn't have, summer basketball.
Right.
I mean, just so much. So that the conditioning probably was the biggest hump. I think after that, once everybody got into their groove, it was just a matter of keeping your kids safe and really stressing to them, look, the extracurricular, whatever, when you're not, at practice and all that, please do whatever you can to, limit your exposure, to the virus, because the reality of it was, like I said, we did have games canceled. We did have games postponed because there was a case with a school, and it was a positive case, and so this team had to shut down for a week, and just things that stuff did happen.
Right.
But it wasn't a large amount on a week-to-week basis. But every week there was a game on the football side of things. Every week there was a game canceled.
Well, it seemed like they did a good job of, I won't say publicizing it or keeping it low, because we didn't really see, it wasn't right out there in the forefront. A lot of times when we have, especially in a situation where there's a pandemic and people feel like their child or their baby's in danger,
right?
They'll publicize, oh, this game should be canceled or anything like
right.
that. I think they did a great job of not putting it out there or not causing a panic during the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think a large part of that was because of the fact that the schools were just upfront. Hey, we got, sorry parents, sorry students, we got, sorry team we're supposed to play, but we got a case, we got to shut down.
Right.
And that's what GHSA asked of them. Just be straight up, make sure you report anything, and you're gonna have to shut down. Here's the rules. Everybody kind of knew the rules going into it. If you do have a positive case, you're gonna have to shut down automatically for 2 weeks till everything comes back negative, and then you can resume your activity. So, everything was on the up and up. You didn't have anybody sneaking anything in, trying to sneak anything past anyone. So really it was a successful season in the sense that, there was, like I said, there were no major shutdowns. A lot of schools did not allow fans to certain sporting events. Football, for the most part, most schools did allow. But I know Atlanta Public Schools did not, and they're still not allowing fans at events. Clayton County was another that didn't allow fans at certain events. So you did have, some schools saying, look, we're going to really make sure that, there's no exposure, no additional exposures. And so, everyone's done a great job. Everyone's really done a great job of handling it.
Well, you mentioned earlier that conditioning, especially in the fall sports when everybody was still like trying to get into the groove of getting back out on the field. You mentioned that conditioning was one of the big things. And I think we've talked about this once or twice before. Do you believe that's because most kids nowadays are specializing in a sport, as opposed to our age? You played football, you played basketball, you played baseball, you ran track, you did pretty much everything. Now, if you play football, you pretty much play football.
Well, no, I think the biggest issue with the conditioning was just the fact that so many kids you weren't doing your normal workout routines that you'd be doing over the summer. So really, whether you were one sport or not, you were just kind of stuck, and so once the green light was given for teams to go ahead and move forward, think about it. You had a kid, he might have been going out and running his miles, but he's not getting the actual regular football, volleyball, softball regimen that they get in normal circumstances. And so, even cross-country kids, you would think, well, they're cross-country, they just run. They can just go out and run. No, I've talked to several kids. It's a different animal just trying to do it on your own. You can't really, with the runners, they couldn't really get their timing, the type of things they do for their timing. They couldn't work on that stuff like they would over the summer with their team, things of that nature. So, it really was more of the fact that they couldn't do what they normally do. But, and that whole one sport thing, that's at this point, I'm like, to each his own. People are going to do what they're going to do. I get it, but It's just, it's a different day and age, man. It's a different day and age, and people want to do what they want to do, and but I mean, we see that, a lot of your successful athletes on a professional level are multi-sport kids. So, whether or not a kid should specialize in one sport once they get to the high school level, I'm gonna leave that up to the kid and the parent.
Well, and a lot of times it's mostly the parent, it's mostly the
Yeah,
parent deciding for the kid, saying, oh, okay, I see you're excelling at baseball at 6 years old, or you're excelling
right.
at football at 7, 8 years old. We're going to stick with this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of odd to see that.
Yeah, now at that age, I think that's where that's where you have to be like, okay, come on now, like, because you can burn a kid out at that, from that age up until, and I've seen it happen. I've seen kids do basketball all day, every day from 6 until they graduate. And then I see them post high school and like, hey, how'd the first year go? Oh, I didn't play. I was, I'm just focusing on school.
Right.
What? Yeah, I just don't want to play. I've seen it happen. So it's not that it doesn't happen, it may not happen a lot, but it does happen. So I think at that early age, yeah, you need to just let your kid play sports. But I think once they get to high school, some kids, one sport they may just have that one sport that's just their thing, and so maybe that, them sticking with it, I don't see it being a problem so much in high school. But
Right.
I think pre-high school, yeah, let your kid do his thing, and get them just keep them active.
Well, by then you pretty much know what you're good at. You know
Yeah, yeah,
you know if football is your thing and you don't want to rock with, or
right,
or you don't want to do it or not. You pretty much know
right,
by that time. But
yeah, yeah,
even with that, I think it's always kind of, I get a chuckle out of it when you have year-round sports. Like, I'll take example baseball. And
right,
baseball, year-round baseball, doesn't get nearly the bad rap as an AAU basketball program. Like, when you hear
right.
AAU, it's almost like a dirty word, you know. But when you
Right,
talk baseball and people say, "Oh, we play year-round baseball," and it's like, "Oh, okay, well, cool," But the
right,
same problems can occur, in terms of sneaker companies, shady coaches. The same things
right,
happen, but we don't
right.
get the same ideas.
Right, right. Yeah. And it's tough, man. I mean, some people, and for me personally, the year-round baseball for younger kids, I look at that as a problem because of the arm, the throwing, you know, especially your pitchers, that constant just throwing the ball
And that's
year
why most
round,
people have to have two
that's a
fingers up.
lot, So when you get to a certain, once you start getting older, you start getting to your collegiate and possibly professional career, you might start having problems. So, but again, to each his own, man. Listen, I'm gonna stay away from it, but I'm there to cover the kids and give them as much exposure as possible. But it's always gonna be that's always gonna be tough because you even got coaches that don't like their star players doing any other thing. People don't realize that you got coaches like that too. They may not be vocal about it, but they're out there.
Well, like, even when I was coming up, I know for a fact that, like, my basketball coach, if you told him that you were playing football, he would literally discourage you. Like,
Mm,
he would talk bad about the football team. He would do everything he could in his power to make you say, "Well, I'm just gonna, I won't play,"
right.
And at that point in time, I think that shouldn't happen either. But like you
Nah,
said,
I agree.
and it may be more covert right now, but like you
Mhm.
said, it does still go on.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. Definitely does.
So yeah, like, now I saw a couple of videos. I think you had one where you were talking to a baseball coach and he was basically just expressing his excitement
Hmm.
because they didn't really get a chance to have their full season. Like,
Right.
does that uh is that echoed around the league or around the state, that everybody that you've covered, especially going into the spring? Like I said, we mentioned before that
Right.
it was only about a month ago this time
Right.
that everything got shut down. how excited are not just coaches, but the kids are to have a
Oh
full.
man, everybody, these spring kids, they're all excited, man. They're excited. They're nervous, and the nervous is more because, no one knows, are we out of the woods? Would there be another, could they, see, because you got to think, again, they were the ones that got hit the hardest.
Right.
Winter sports, fall sports, they all got their seasons in, they got to win their championships, all of that. Spring sports didn't get to do any of that. And so, the excitement is real. They're playing I've covered a lot of the stuff you've seen game-wise, those are scrimmages, but they're playing these scrimmages because the way they're playing them, because they know, like, any day, like several coaches have said, they now no longer take anything for granted, and they realize that you just never know when it can be your last time out there. And so you would think some of these scrimmages were, a first number one seeds on the line here, So they're definitely excited. I'm excited for them because, again, I felt so bad for those spring kids, especially the ones that were seniors, to have your high school career come to an end like that, and to no one's fault. I mean, it was nothing anyone could do, and it wasn't just Georgia kids; it was the whole country. Spring kids around the whole country. Pretty much, I've said it several times. They literally took one for the team, So, I'm super excited for them. I am very excited for these spring kids to be out there and have an opportunity to. As of now, it looks like they should be able to complete the season. We just gotta hope people do what's right and to fight the virus and keep the numbers where they need to be so that the association doesn't feel like they have to shut it down.
Well, you know me, I'm a basketball guy, and high school is pretty much coming right in the playoffs, in the thick of it now.
Yeah.
Let me from some of the teams that you've seen. Give me a couple teams couple teams that I should look out for if I'm on a website or anything like that I should pay attention to say, okay, these guys might be, or these girls even might be a contender to win the state.
Well, number one, I'm gonna go straight to the girls' side, Westlake and Buford. All right. So because of reclassifications and regional alignments and all that, they're both now 6A. Westlake, they were 7A the last 2 years or 3 years, and Buford has been 5A. They both got moved into 6A, and they're both defending champs. Westlake has won 3 in a row. Buford's won 4 in a row.
Okay.
And the way it's set up right now, if they stay the course, they would end up meeting in the semifinals. So that semifinals matchup is pretty much going to be like your championship game. I can guarantee you that. So you definitely want to look out for those two girls. Wheeler on the boys' side, definitely a team to look out for. They're defending 7A champs. Pebblebrook is doing very well on the boys' side as well. On the girls' side, Upson Lee out of South, down there in the Spalding County area, Upson Lee. On the girls' side, they finished undefeated on the season. So look out for them. There's a lot of teams, but I'd say my top on the girls' side would be Buford and Westlake, and maybe Upson Lee and Carrollton. Look out for them. Oh, I'm sorry, and Luella. Luella girls are doing very well for themselves too. So on the boys' side, it's going to be. I think it's on every classification. I don't really see anybody that's going to just. I don't see anybody that has it in the bag, because you still got Grayson in 7A, which Grayson lost to Wheeler in the championship last year, but they've had a good season. You can never count out Norcross. Been not the season that they've normally had, but again, you can never count them out. So Eagles Landing down in 5A is doing well. So boys' side, I think we're going to see, it's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out. But girls, that Westlake and Buford, I really feel like that's going to be a matchup we're going to see in the semifinal. I think whoever wins that wins the 6A championship.
Well, you definitely got me ready to check it out. I would love to see it. And I know there used to be a couple sites that would come out and kind of broadcast games, and they had different sites you can pull up. I'm not sure if they're still able to do so because of different protocols?
Yeah, well, the main site that partners with all high schools across the country in a National High School Federation, or I think I'm saying it right, but they partner with all the schools. So GHSA partners with them throughout playoffs, or at least the state championship. So the state championship games will definitely be broadcasted on that. You pay a membership and it's like $10 a month and something like that, but you pay the membership, sign up to watch that weekend, and I guess you could probably cancel.
Well, I mean, if you're into high school sports, if you like watching young
if you like work, it's worth having. If you like watching, it's worth having. $10 a month, and basically any school that's part of that network, if they're you can watch them. So no matter what school, what state they're in, anything, if you have that $10 a month, you can watch their games.
Cool. Well, I thank you. I appreciate you for coming through.
Oh man, no problem, man. Thank you.
I know you got a busy schedule, so I won't hold you up. But once again, I greatly appreciate you coming through. And shoot, probably when we can get together again, we'll link back up and we can chop it up about some of these spring sports. Maybe we talk a little baseball.
Definitely, let's do it, man. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, thank you again.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, Gordon. I appreciate it, bro.
Take it easy now. Again,
all right, man.
Give me your media outlets. Send me all your stuff. Tell everybody your IG, your Twitter, everything.
Definitely. All right. So on Instagram, we're at Prep Sports Nation _. That's Prep Sports Nation _ on Twitter, we're at PS_Nation _. And then website, prepsportsnation.net, YouTube, Prep Sports Nation, Facebook, Prep Sports Nation.
Cool. Once again, I appreciate you, Daddy. I call him Daddy because we cool.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you.
It.
All right.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You too.